What's up, everybody? It's PJ North. We are back around the mat, episode number 2. Gonna be a little different this week. Well, hopefully we'll get a full episode in. I'm super excited about it. I even wore my Great Muda shirt. Shout out to Great Muda, the Hall of Famer. And I've got my man, Freddie Fresh, today. I'm super excited to have him back. Freddie, what's the good word, my man? Thanks for coming back, dude.
Dude, glad to be back. We're the only ones survived from last week, I guess. But here we are. I'm excited to go around the mat with you today.
Thanks, man. Yeah, me too. It's an exciting time. I've got a couple new things for us since we're doing the two-man show. I've got the new visual here. I've got a timer for us. I still got the points going. And I've got a little, you'll see a little title screen to kind of at the top show you what topic we're on if you join the podcast at any different point without the time. So we're going to kick it off today with, of course, everything everybody wants to talk about. But we're going to start with Smackdown as a whole today. I mean, what an absolute crazy time. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, right? My World is my favorite. We've talked about that. And I'm a week or two behind, but I was listening and they're talking all the things that have changed in the last 14 days of professional wrestling, from the Netflix deal, the TKO stuff, the Vince McMahon thing. The Rock comes back. He's on the board of trustees all of a sudden. And now The Rock comes out and ruins everything for me. But I have faith. I am not the internet wrestling community that everybody else is. I'm not a complainer. I'm not getting on there to complain about it. I have faith in what's going to happen. But SmackDown as a whole, and Fred, I know you didn't get to watch it live. It's quite amusing that both Rock showings on SmackDowns you and Miguel have missed, which really also brings me a lot of joy live. But what was your thought? I mean, let's just start. We'll start with The Rock first, man. Again, we've got, and let me, I'm going to turn on our little timer here, which is kind of fun. We're going to kick it off. We got 10 minutes to chat about about this topic today. And let me kick it off with let's hear it. What do you got for me, Fred?
So, just on the Rock topic, not to do anything to do with the Cody situation, but just on Rock appearing in a vacuum. I mean, amazing, of course. I mean, anytime The Rock is on WWE television, it's something special. I wasn't expecting it, to say the least, on Friday. There had been rumblings, especially since Rock came back for that one episode of Raw in January, and then with him being on the TKO board, there were rumblings about Rock and Roman very well could happen. We didn't know, was it going to be Elimination Chamber in Australia? Was it going to be WrestleMania? Was it going to be WrestleMania next year? Was it going to be Saudi Arabia? All these different rumors, nothing really concrete, but I did not expect it to, kind of be hinted that it would be WrestleMania this year on Friday. But just huge. I mean, Rock and Roman is we're going to get into the,
yeah, we'll get it. Right. But just Rock specifically. Right.
But Rock Roman, I mean, my God, it's one of those things that, I hope it happens.
Sure.
You think, it's got to happen, but I don't know. And looks like it's going to finally happen, which is amazing. And something that I've wanted to see for years, and a lot of people have wanted to see for years. So,
I mean, I think the Rock being the most electric man, right, and the most electrifying athlete, all of these things. And again, I've said that in the chat at the beginning. Rock and Roman is a money match all day, every day. It's something we all want to see. However, do I think that this makes the most sense? It doesn't matter to me, right? Because we're going to see what we're going to see, and that's kind of the beauty of wrestling in and of itself. It's like you can hate it or love it, but like that's the cool thing is when we don't have any idea what's going to transpire. Like the fact that all of a sudden they're like, hey, by the way, we're having a press conference next Thursday, in case y'all want to tune in Vegas. What? Okay. Like, I've been all the way in for a long time, but I am all the way in, on the Rock thing. And that's why I wasn't super upset. Again, The Rock as a whole, such a great time. It was great. He didn't even say a word, right? Which made it even cooler, right? Because he does have that for use of a Miguel term, the aura of The Rock, right? The real thing. And so I think it was cool. It was a neat experience. And so it's good to have Rock back for this WrestleMania run, if that's what we're going to get. You hope that he can, he trains constantly, right? So your hope is that he can wrestle and do all the things. But again, we're going to find out more tomorrow. We're recording this on Wednesday, so we'll find out more tomorrow with the Rock thing. But as we talk more about the Rock, for me, Rock, the Cody thing was like, Cody's like, look, it really tosses a wrench in it. I don't think this has ever been done in wrestling that I've seen the way that they're doing it, right? Where they were like, hey, you won the Rumble, but you're going to go out there and not. It's a very different animal. And the way that it's said, look, you have to try to be creative. And so I think as a Cody mark, as a Cody fan, I don't know where it's going. I'm not upset yet. Now, should we get to WrestleMania and I'm in Philly and Cody's not main eventing night 2, do I think it's the right decision? I don't know. I mean, I'm still going to be happy if he wins on Saturday, so, like, whatever, right, for me. But what a great promo, right? I mean, he, in my opinion, he's one of the best talkers because he is articulate. His words, his vernacular, all of those things are really well put together for what he is, right? He comes out in the suit and he walks the walk, he talks the talk. That's what makes him a great superstar. And that was my take on Friday, right? Again, I don't know what's going to happen, but I got to watch tomorrow night right now, and that's the goal, is to get you to watch the next thing. So that's kind of where I'm at.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's the goal, right? Is to get you to watch Thursday, to get you to watch Friday, to get you to watch Monday, right? And they did that on Friday, for sure. They got everybody talking. I mean, good, bad, or indifferent. There was no indifference.
Sure.
So everybody was talking about it. Timing is not, I guess, not the best if you're a Cody Rhodes fan, and they have been building this, but not to, no pun intended, I am willing to see how the story gets played out. Everybody jumps to conclusions. Nobody wants to let anything breathe and see where they go. We don't know where this is going. So people that got very upset, I understand. I do, believe it or not, like, even though I want Rock and Roman, I understand people that are upset about it. I do get their point of view as well. But let's see what happens. And in the end, even if Cody doesn't get the match at WrestleMania somehow, some way, I can understand, again, still the disappointment in fans. But at the end of the day, and I do think they are trying to facilitate this, he is going to be more of a babyface than he was last year or this year without Rock.
Which is, how is that even? You think about that. Think about what you're saying there, right? Like, he's going to be even more of a babyface. That's to me, that is absolutely unheard of. We haven't seen a babyface like this in. I honestly, like, that has been this big of a thing. Daniel Bryan, yes, that time, but that was like such a niche thing for those days, right? The run to WrestleMania.
Really a small period of time.
Yeah, right. I mean, you're talking about for 2 straight years, Cody returns at Mania, and for 2 straight years, he's the biggest babyface. Now we're going on a 3rd year of being that's unheard of in a long time. And there's nobody better to support it. It all goes back to, like you said, not being able to let it breathe. I agree. Look, man, I love, why is everybody overreacting? But that's the good thing, too, is the more people talk about it, the more people are watching it. That's a positive, too. So while it's unfortunate that we have to hear a lot of negative opinions and negative commentary constantly, and that's whatever, right? I mean, I can look past it. It doesn't bother me. I just kind of move on. But I do agree that no one wants to let it breathe and let it happen, but I am super excited to see where it goes, because Cody can be that guy to figure out how to turn this into a positive, into a bigger thing. And I don't know, I'm interested.
Yeah, well, what interested me a lot, and I don't think enough people are really talking about it, he didn't say this for no reason, is when he said, I want to take everything from you. I do want that title, but that's not it. I want to take everything, right? So there's something to that. Now, what does that mean? Does everything mean, so he's going to take the title, and Rock is going to take the title of head of the table? I don't know what that means, but there's something to, I want to take everything from you. So I'm curious to see, what happens. There's a lot we don't know. And does this happen because of Punk's injury? I don't know. Like, because people are like, well, then Cody.
That's another thing, right? That's completely speculative for the rest of time, right? And it's so funny. I had to laugh. I saw someone tweeted that at one point Meltzer had given every possible scenario to have happened. And it's like, this guy has reported, and so at this point, it's like, what does it matter? Like, Punk's hurt, so this is how it's just like any other TV show. Like, my thought isn't, hey, Kevin Costner's going to have a huge contract issue with Yellowstone, so let's write him off in season 1. They don't know that. And so they don't know. The thing is, like, if Punk, there's no way they know Punk's going to get hurt. So there's no way they plan for this without having some sort of plan. At least in my opinion. Again, and that's the speculation.
I agree with that.
That's the beauty to have a podcast where we can speculate about it.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yep. That's it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. Like I said, I think Cody. Let's talk. We continue to talk about the whole thing as a. And I mentioned this, right? I know we were talking about this in the chat. The Roman thing having, you called it a monologue, right, against Seth. I don't know if it was a monologue. I felt like he got a couple digs in, which was good, and I thought it was good. That was probably the best Roman promo that I've seen in some time. And again, for me, I feel like I can say, because I'm not being a Roman guy, I can still see that he can work the mic when he has to, and he did a good job. He just doesn't do it that often, so I can say like it's been a long time since I've seen him do that, right? But it did bring that the levels are just WWE is hitting on all cylinders right now. They deserve all $10 billion they got or $5 billion or whatever they got.
Yeah, they earned that Netflix money, I guess.
It's pretty crazy. So I'm excited though. Like I said, I think we could talk. I think there's gonna be more next week as the press conference happens and we talk a little bit about that.
For sure.
Because what do you think? How about that? We got 40 seconds here. What's the best case scenario for the press conference tomorrow for you? What's your dream scenario?
Best case scenario is that they do announce Rock and Roman at WrestleMania. We have our main event. We have the biggest match ever announced. But that Cody is somehow in the picture.
Yeah.
Not just to the side. I'm a fan of Cody versus Seth. Just don't know if it's what should be done this year. But again, Punk's injury could have affected things.
Yeah, 100%, right? I mean, whatever Seth's plan originally was, regardless, had to have changed, right? Because there's no way that it wasn't going to be Punk and Seth at that point.
And that's my thing. What if Punk didn't get hurt and it was Punk and Seth? What was Cody? I mean, it wasn't like Cody was just going to do nothing, right? So there had to be something for Cody, So we'll see.
I agree. Our timer has run out on SmackDown. There's so much more to talk about, though, about SmackDown. We'll give let me get your high level on the Bayley, Io Sky thoughts at WrestleMania.
So I'm excited that they're doing it. I thought it was cool. The only thing I was kind of hoping for almost a Batista Triple H kind of storyline, in that it's like, well, Bayley's obviously not going to go against Io for the title.
Sure.
You're going to go against Rhea, right? And they play that, and then it turns into where they build, and like they've been teasing that something's happening with Damage Control, but then they get to a point where it blows up, and no, I am coming for you. I think I felt like it was a little rushed. Like they just did it all of a sudden. I thought it could have had a little more build to it. I didn't think it was. I liked it. I just think what happened on Friday could have happened
a couple weeks down the road. Yeah, I think they could have done it after. I think they the hard thing there is, right, they got to set up Chamber in some form or fashion. So she's going after Rhea, and they can't really announce the Chambers for her. So there's like that. And I get that part. I do agree too, though. I thought it was cool. I wish that they've already been teasing the breakup, which was great. But I wish they would have teased the Japanese learning thing, like, hey, I've picked up what you were talking, like, you know what I mean? Like, I wish they would have teased that more prior to this. Yeah.
I don't know what Bayley, they never said what Bayley said in Japanese.
Yeah. Well, I think she repeated what Asuka said, that she wasn't good enough in the in the locker room. So I thought that was good. SmackDown was full of stuff, right? We mentioned that, but also we'll go through one last thing. Braun Breaker and Tiffany Stratton. Tiffany Stratton debuting. I think she's a star. We talked about her ad nauseum in the chat. She's incredible. She kind of gets it right. I saw someone tweet that she should win Money in the Bank and have a pink briefcase, and I was like, man, this is like the Carmella thing, where it's like they're building her to be the next person. She can be a champion. The future of women's wrestling continues to just get stronger and stronger, and looks awesome. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, long time coming. She hasn't really even been in NXT that long, but
she's young. She's been there like 2 years.
Yeah, she's been main roster ready for a while. Just like I've said about Logan Paul, she has no business being that good. She didn't come from a wrestling background. She wasn't a wrestling fan
Yep.
growing up. She was a gymnast, bodybuilder, whatever she was. But she's just, I mean, she checks all the boxes. So I'm happy to see her on the main roster. I think she did what she did in NXT, had a hell of a run there. Kind of, I think she hit her peak in NXT. And, sometimes they let people stay there a little longer than they...
Right, and then they wear off. Yeah.
Right. Sometimes I think they bring them up too soon. I think her debut timing was perfect.
Sure.
So I'm happy to see what she does. I think she's going to fit right in. And with Charlotte being out, it's a nice boost to the Smackdown women's roster.
Agree. I think that it makes all the sense. Super excited to bring her back. All right, well, we'll move on to the next topic here. Is Fred is in the lead. It makes it a little easier, right, when there's only two people in. I like Fred, so I don't want to harass him. I was really hoping Miguel would join us tonight so I could start him with negative 10 points just for being Miguel. But up next, we'll talk about the Raw recap. I thought we'd go in order, but we'll get to NXT afterwards. So I'm going to kick it off with Raw here. I thought Raw was good. I didn't really understand. That's tough to follow Roman versus Rock and Cody and all of those things because it's like, and you have the Thursday thing now that everybody's really focused on. And I thought they did a good job of just kind of like Drew coming out. Drew cutting a look. I've talked about how much I'm not like a super Drew guy. I think he's a great wrestler, but I just not the character thing. But then he has been on fire since hurting Punk. Not on purpose, but right since the injury. He's been unbelievable. His Twitter and his Instagram are hilarious. The memes, then the shirt. Then he comes out and he does like the fake thing where he's like, no, you can't let Seth talk. I thought that was really, really good. I still think Seth, again, is one of the best talkers in the business. Cody continued to it was just a great segment, the whole thing. Then he hits Seth. He injures Seth. I thought that was great too. Which there's just so many ways to go. The whole thing can kind of which is really good. So I was excited about that piece of Raw. But I thought the best part of it, I thought the bull rope thing was cool. I didn't really see why he was fighting Shinsuke other again. I mean, I know that they did the segment in Knoxville, right, for digital. But I love Shinsuke, right? I'm a huge Shinsuke guy. I love the Poison Mist. I think it's awesome. And so I thought it was cool. It was just another good match, which I love. Like, it's a little random, but I kind of love random matches like that. They had a lot of great everything. So I thought Raw overall was pretty good. And it continued the storylines where we had to go. And it was a nice thing to do. They had a lot of good matches and things. The R-Truth stuff continues to shine. And so I think that as they continue to move forward, that was a good break before they get to this press conference, which is obviously going to lead into something, that we can only hope it's going to lead to something interesting. What about you for your Raw recap? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought Raw was a solid show, good show. Like you said, very hard to follow what will go down.
Yeah, nearly impossible, right? I mean, realistically, let's assuming you were fantasy booking, how would you even top that?
Yeah, exactly. You don't. And I do. On top of that, the focus is certainly tomorrow or Thursday or wherever you go. So it was almost like they had to get through Monday to get to Thursday, right? And then now we're gonna really, you know what I mean? It was almost like a lame duck show, but it didn't feel like it. They still put on a hell of a show. But Thursday is the priority, right? In Vegas. So I thought it was good. Yeah, it was funny. The Shinsuke and Cody match. I mean, I loved it. It was random, like you said, because they had their TV feud, and I thought they had a really good feud on TV. It really got, from Survivor Series to the Rumble, it gave us something good on TV.
I thought so too. It was really interesting the way they did it. I mean, they presented Shinsuke about as good as they have in years.
Oh yeah, starting. I know he didn't beat Seth, but starting with the Seth stuff, after SummerSlam, is when it really started, and then it picked up with the Cody thing. So yeah, it was kind of random because their feud had ended, but bull rope match was pretty cool to see.
I thought the story about the bull rope was really cool too.
That was cool too.
That was an interesting piece because I mean, as much as a Dusty fan as I'm a pretty big Dusty fan. I'm a huge collector of his old stuff, and I've seen the documentary hundreds of times. I've seen all the stories on it, even the Turnbuckle Pro that's coming back. I'm a big Dusty guy. So growing up, I had no idea that there was a bull rope match against Superstar Billy Graham. That's one of the things I skipped over that because WWF, or when it was in its early infancy of WWF, I was more of an NWA guy. From a historical standpoint, I read a lot more about NWA. So I didn't even know that happened with Superstar Billy Graham. So that was a really interesting, cool piece of it.
One of his only rare WWF appearances, he had his run in the late, early 90s, but as the common man. But yeah, he did those couple of Garden appearances with Superstar back in the late 70s. So that was cool. I didn't know that. Now, whether that's true or not about the bull rope, I don't know, but that was a cool story.
Yeah, I thought that was neat too. Even if they played off of it, it's kind of a cool concept. And I think Cody, I'm sure it's got to be somewhat true, right? Cody either probably kept it or it's a WWF thing that they kept. Maybe they had it in the warehouse.
Why lie about that,
Yeah, agreed.
So, no, I enjoyed it.
What do you think about, again, the R-Truth segment, is there anybody hotter on TV than R-Truth right now?
He is, God. It's been since Survivor Series now. The Judgment Day thing has been killing it for 2 months, over 2 months now. It's fantastic. And I loved how, because, the whole thing is, then, Priest is kind of the one that likes him. And you thought he finally had enough, but he even said to him after, Finn and JD left.
He's like, all right, make yourself at home.
Just make yourself at home.
I thought it was perfect. And Arch is like, all right. And then he sells the shirt, and the way that he's like, what's so funny is that he's been oblivious. That's like been his character trait for a long time.
He thought it was a gang initiation.
Yeah, and I just think every little detail that he does is really well played. From like just a great acting perspective, and he does a great job delivering everything too. Especially, and I thought JD's really done a good job too. There's always like some weird stiff things that are weird for newcomers, like JD when they were talking about Rhea getting her hands on somebody, and it's like that was like not even really needed, but they were trying to like, okay, now we're in the next segment of the show, and I was like, okay, but I think they've done a great job, man. I just really like Judgment Day right now. I think they're one of the hottest groups. Here's a question as we talk about Raw. Where is Damian Priest going? Realistically, this is as lost, in my opinion, him holding the Money in the Bank. It's been, what is it? It's 8 months now, right? It's July, so it's almost 8 months, 7 months. The Otis 2020 thing is almost the only other thing where I'm like, what are we doing? I don't really know. He's done a great job. He doesn't really need it, but my question is like, what is he going to do with it?
And at this point, and it's a shame because I thought they had something really good on their hands around SummerSlam time when Finn was going for the title, and they did a lot of teases. What's going to happen with Judgment Day if Finn wins? Is Damian going to cash in on? There was so much they could have done with it. Yes, you would have had to sacrifice Seth winning keeping the title and being on the run that he's on. I understand that, but I just feel like that would have been they could have done a lot of good stuff with Damian and Finn. They did good stuff teasing it, but then it went nowhere. And now it's kind of like, okay, he's got it. I don't see him cashing in before WrestleMania at this point. It did happen a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But that was during the pandemic.
That's kind of what I just don't. I'm excited. I don't really know where they're going, which is the best. Again, a great part too. I think he carried. I just think it's getting to the point where it's like, also, if someone wins at Mania, they only get to be champ for 4 months at a max because he has to cash it in right before Money in the Bank. So
right. So say Cody. He's going for the world title at WrestleMania.
Sure.
Say this does happen, and Cody wins at WrestleMania, and now Cody's the world champion. Again, we're not talking about that right now. Not particularly what I think should happen, but whatever. But what, you're gonna have Damian Priest then beat Cody, or are you gonna have another guy not successfully cash in the Money in the Bank? Because it hasn't been successfully cashed in now.
The last 3, right? It's the last 3.
The women it always does, but the men, the last 3. I think Big E was the last one.
Right. Wow.
That successfully cashed it in, and that unfortunately didn't end great. But,
it's a tough. It's a crazy. That's kind of weird to think about. I like I said, it crosses my mind constantly about the Damian Priest thing because it's like he's doing such a good job as the co-leader or whatever in that situation with Rhea. I don't know where it's at. I saw again. That's the best thing about wrestling right now, man. I just feel like there's so many cool storylines going on, and we don't have to be. We're not stuck with any bad booking right now, right? Which is kind of fun. It's weird for me as a mark to say booking because I'm not in the business, but You know what I mean?
No, I get what you're saying.
Last piece. Yeah, last piece, tag team wrestling. As you know, I'm a big, huge tag team wrestling fan. It's one of my favorite parts. I do think that they are absolutely lost. They're putting on bangers right now, but just like the tag team division feels like a little disconnected, disjointed with that part of it. I don't know that I like DIY a lot. I think they're great, but I just don't. It's the tag team. But in WWE, the tag team thing kind of always seems lost. It seems like they don't really care that much. Which is whatever. I like Damian and Finn as a champion. I just wish they would have regular belts. I hate those titles more than anything.
Well, I don't like them either. It was I didn't like them even when they were on their individual shows. I think they were ugly anyway. But at least the red was red, blue was blue, and whatever. Now they're combined. It makes no sense. And apparently they've had new titles made. It feels like for a year now. We have new titles. They haven't debuted yet.
Where are we gonna put them? I don't know.
Outdated by the time they get debuted.
Agreed.
So the titles alone, I never liked them. From the original ones when they had the worst was that damn copper penny looking.
Yeah, hated it.
Same design.
Hated it.
Terrible. And I usually don't complain about the belt design, but those are terrible. Anyway, I like Finn and Damian as champions themselves. I think the problem is the focus isn't on them being tag team champions. The focus is just them being in Judgment Day.
Sure.
Right? And whatever Judgment Day is doing, not necessarily the titles. They just happen to be the tag team champion. So I do think that kind of puts a hindrance on it is, they're big stars and Judgment Day is great and they're great, but the titles aren't that important. It's not the focus. I mean, I did enjoy the stuff they did, when they feuded with Cody and Jay, even though I know we saw that.
Yeah, that was a cool I thought that was a good concept. Yeah, I thought that was good.
But I do like that they're doing this little, like they did that Fatal 4-Way on Raw.
I thought that was an interesting way to get to a point to then get to another match. I thought that was good.
Right, and now they're going to go to SmackDown and face Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne.
I was waiting for you to call him Butch so I could mute you immediately.
Who did? They did, right? Was it Cole or McAfee said Butch on Raw?
Oh, I think it was Cole, right? And no, it was Pat McAfee, and Cole was like, I think you mean Pete Dunne or something like that, right? Yeah, I thought that was good.
I don't know what that took forever to. I was surprised how long they waited to change that, but I'm glad they did.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, you start to wear off in like even fighting it at a certain point, right? It's like the Gunther thing. Eventually, you just give up, and you're like, well, it's fine, it'll do.
But at least Gunther, especially now, Gunther sounds good.
Yeah, it does because it's right, and the announcer, they do a great job announcing it as Gunther. I thought that was a good job too. The Butch thing is just like, man, you went from the bruiserweight Pete Dunne to Butch, like that was just like. Vince McMahon's like, excellent.
Well, he was a little preoccupied with it.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, great Raw recap. We'll move on to the next thing. I was live in full effect. And we'll get into Vengeance Day, NXT Vengeance Day here. Talk a little bit about it. I thought it was great. Got to see my first event at F&M Bank Arena in Clarksville. It was a really cool arena. It's kind of relatively new. A friend of mine works at WWE and was able to help out, give some great seats. So I was super close to the ring, got to see everything. I thought the matches were amazing. That Bron situation in the tag match where he nearly took his head off, decapitated himself, I thought was super terrible. I was really worried and concerned, but it didn't affect him. I thought that they were I think the first match was a good finish. But I thought that it was the sloppiest of all the matches. I think they were really, really overhyped. Everybody was moving too fast, and everything kind of looked sloppy at certain points. Braun didn't take the reverse neck breaker from Trick very well. Their finishers, it was just, there was a lot of weird stuff from a synergy standpoint, but from a hard-hitting perspective, I thought it was good. I liked the Wolf Dogs thing. I thought it was clever. Their pre-match stuff was good. So all in all, that part of it was really, really good. My favorite part, honestly, of course, was I thought the Lola Vice cashing in her thing and then losing was really interesting because you thought she was going to win at one point. Everybody was talking about the Lyra Valkyria thing. I thought she was great. She could wrestle. Her moves were great. I thought Roxanne Perez is I'm not. I get it. But they were both small, so they kind of. It looked like a good. It wasn't David versus Goliath situation, and then Lola Vice came in, and I thought that was really really great. But of course, the main event, maybe the best. It's definitely the best Trick Williams match I've seen. I haven't seen a ton, but I've seen the tag team stuff. But hands down, his best match. He looked incredible. They both got busted open. He was already busted open from the beginning of the show. Then he busted open Ilya, and I thought it was great. Both entrances seemed like in an arena that probably held, basketball wise, it probably holds like 8,000 or something maybe. It was probably 4,500 or so there, 5,000, and I thought it was just unbelievable. The whoop that trick, and I posted a video today of that. It was the whole place was shaking, just yelling whoop. It was unbelievable. I did re-see the Wade Barrett thing too, where he did the whoop that trick thing, the Booker T style, which I thought was hilarious. And someone tweeted, they're gonna sue Booker T's gonna sue Wade Barrett as soon as he gets back to work. But yeah, I thought the storytelling of Trick and Melo has been the best thing in NXT, overarching since they've done just an exceptional job. Right, everybody thought, for lack of a better term, that Trick was Jannetty. And Melo was Sean, but Trick has worked. I assume what it feels like that he's really worked really, really hard to become the in-ring competitor as well. He talks. He's working on. He's got a great demeanor, composure. The whole thing. I thought it was really, really great, and that match just blew me away. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat when there was points where it was so heightened that I was like, Trick Williams about to win a title. He's going over, and then Melo's going to turn, and they're going to fight for the title at Stand and Deliver. When that didn't happen, we're still going to get a match, which is awesome. It's very Triple H, Shawn Michaels-esque, right, with the breakup thing. And of course, Melo was wearing the Shawn Michaels barbershop jacket, kind of the same set. I love the little details that people point out when you get to see that stuff. So all in all, I thought the whole event was amazing. I was blown away. The best time. I had a great time at the PLE. And like you said, they've been delivering on the PLEs, but I know I was long-winded on that one. But again, I thought NXT Vengeance Day was amazing. What about you, Fred?
Yeah, I have to second that. I mean, like I did tell you, I think they've been, for the last almost 2 years now, they've really been, can't miss on their PLEs. Just all of them. I don't think there's been a bad one since they've been back on the road. But I thought it was a really good show. I thought Deadline was really good in December, and I thought they followed up with a really good one for Vengeance Day. The main event was definitely my favorite match of the night. I thought, the whole Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes thing, like you said, one of the best things they've done, I think, in NXT, and definitely in recent memory. That whole storytelling. I mean, this has been going on since October.
That's the thing, right? It's like, I think that the whole thing as a whole, storytelling as a whole, the thing that they've done, the whole arch, right? Because they, of course, at the beginning, they're like, hey, we want you to be a tag team. And then, of course, at some point, they're like, hey, we want you to break up to, build it. But the whole story arc, right, was just unbelievable.
They didn't rush it.
Right.
They let it breathe. And then they made you think, well, maybe Carmelo really didn't do it.
Right. Maybe Ilya did. Right. And then he's like, maybe Ilya did. Right. They had me. I was like, okay. Yeah.
And you think, maybe they're not, and they got you, though, and then sure enough. But it's funny you mentioned the Jannetty jacket, the Shawn Michaels jacket. I didn't even really think of that, but it's clear as day. That was that.
Honestly, it's so funny when people point stuff out on Twitter. I saw that.
I didn't think of that till you mentioned it.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. A little piece. They actually were talking about that's kind of like why he dressed like that when he went out for that match. That's why he was wearing it, and the whole deal was kind of just like a little ode. And I thought, the dive into the chop block was a really cool note. And then he was like, upset that it happened.
Right.
Like I said, from a match perspective, everybody gets caught up in how many stars and all the stuff. And look, if we're rating things on work rate and crowd interaction, that's a 5-star match. There was one botch, maybe one situation where it wasn't fluid. Which, again, wrestling's not meant to be that. It's okay if it's not. It's not like a botch is a bad word or whatever you want to call it. But that is what a 5-star match is to me as a fan. That's what I expect to see. The place, on the edge of their seat, the crescendo of this is going to happen. And then the super, what does Ilya call his finisher? It's German, right? He says it in German.
Yeah,
his finisher. and he hit that one off the rope. And then he had to hit it again. I was like, man, this is unbelievable. And I just think it's like I said, just overarching. The whole show was really, really great, but that was really specific.
I think he's phenomenal. He's
Ilya
as champion. Yeah.
Yeah, he gets a tough rap, right? Because he's smaller. He's very similar to the Tyler Bate or the Pete Dunne thing or the Johnny Gargano thing. He's indie, but man, he puts. You've seen his wars against Gunther and when Gunther was Walter,
right?
Stuff
he
like
feels
that.
Real.
Yeah, that's exactly it. He feels like
especially when he was a heel.
You're right.
He was out of a some movie. He was a villain in a movie. But I think he's doing good as a babyface. I think at least.
Do you consider him a babyface right now? I feel like he's kind of tweener, right? He's very because he was like.
I mean, technically he is a babyface.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, but yeah, he is kind of in that.
Yeah.
Role, especially against a guy like Trick Williams, right?
Well, look, Cody Rhodes might even be a heel against Trick Williams in that crowd that night.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That is something live, right? Here in the Whoop That Trick.
It is look, I hadn't seen it since he's blown up, right? He hasn't been coming out to that.
And the good news, we're gonna get to see Carmelo Hayes versus Trick Williams at Stand and Deliver. That's
what I'm most excited about, man. Me and you got to experience NXT last year, WrestleMania, which I thought was awesome. I'm really glad that we got to go because such a cool, it was a great match. There was it was a great event. There was a lot of great matches, and it didn't impede us from hitting Mania. After that, they make it feasible for that.
I'm glad we don't have to go at 10 o'clock in the morning this year, but
it was a little early last time, I guess. That's good stuff. Yeah, overall, though, I think... But last thoughts are, the Dijak stuff was interesting. I wasn't a Joe Gacy guy at all until that match. That's one of those matches where you watch and you're like, okay, Joe Gacy's pretty good. He works. His character is borderline Cactus Jack WCW era where he loses where he has dementia or memory loss or whatever. It's very similar to that. It's a little weird, but it worked in the concept. And I'm a huge Dijak fan. I loved him. When he was on the Indies and Ring of Honor, his Eat Defeat or his finisher is the stuff that he does is unbelievable. He is a smaller. I shouldn't say he's a less strong Cesaro to me, right? Where the way that he works like he has big man things, but he also does the high flyer stuff too, which I think is really great. So overall, I give the event. I mean, again, I'm pretty liberal with my voting here about wrestling events. I think it was an A for me. I thought the event was really, really great. It never lulled, and so for me, I liked it a lot.
I did too, and especially when you go live, it's a different experience, right, than watching it on TV. But I think the fact that you were there live and you can say that just shows how good it was.
Yeah, the crowd was super into it, which I loved. Yeah.
But I thought it was. I mean, it was good for both of us. So. Yeah, I would say it was a solid show. I'd give it an A too.
I love that. Well, we got away with that one with 5 seconds to spare on that one as we move through the show here. Up next, we're going to talk about these. I'm going to give these a little bit of shorter timer here for us. We're just going to go quick 5 minutes for these next ones. And we're going to kick it off with WWE 2K24. I don't know how much of a gamer you are, Fred. I'm a huge gamer, especially on the created space. I love the mods. I love the people that create all of the spaces. I get super immersed in creating my own world of old territories and fictional territories, and I do the New Japan thing, and I do all the created stuff. And I love that 2K is one of the best games developers that allow you to do that. I do the same thing on NBA 2K. I do like a college version. I do a retro. I do all these fictional versions and things like that. So I'm super into it. So the WWE 2K24 out. The trailer debuted yesterday. It looks unbelievable. There looks to be. I love the chain system that they had previously with the mini games at the beginning of a match, where you grapple and you can exchange punches. And so it looks really cool that they brought that back. A lot of outdoor wrestling. There's a lot of outside of the ring stuff now going on the game. So it looks really, really great. I saw 200 superstars, it said, on the game, from what I read somewhere, which is unheralded because the most we got, I think last year we had 100, I think we had 70, 200 is crazy. Now that may be just like different versions of the same character multiple times with different gear and stuff like that. But I am super pumped about WWE 2K24, which you can check me out on PJ Plays PS5 on TikTok. I do a little video game thing there, so shout out to that. And I'll be playing WWE 2K24 when it comes out. But what about you, Fred? Are you excited about the game? I mean, the WrestleMania feature of it. What about you?
Yeah, no. So that's the funny thing. I'm not a huge gamer, but of course I always do get the wrestling game. I didn't get it last year for whatever reason, but I do usually get it. I mean, back in the day though, I mean, we used to play those games relentlessly. It was chaos in here.
Were you an N64 guy back in the day? What were you before?
I was a PlayStation guy.
Okay, so you've been a PlayStation guy too. Which, the unfortunate thing for us as PlayStation guys, the PlayStation versions were terrible for a long time. Until PS2, they were really bad. I played SmackDown a lot, like SmackDown and SmackDown Know Your Role. I love those two. Those two were really, really good, but man, we got WWE Attitude. It was pretty bad. That game sucked.
That was pretty bad. Yeah, I remember that. My first game I ever had was Warzone.
That one was terrible too.
That was terrible. I just remember when you would pick the guy and they would just be standing there.
It was like the score.
And then they would cut those little promos when it was like.
It was that game was. I wanted to be an N64 kid, but I didn't have one. But my next door neighbor did. So we of course had 30 different. We had 4 different people for each character. So you had Stone Cold, then we had a Stunning Steve, then we had all these other ones. We were doing all that stuff. Play those games. I wanted to be an N64 kid, but yeah, I was a PlayStation guy too, and they were terrible. I wish I had everybody knocks me for the Japanese wrestling thing, but the Japanese wrestling games, I didn't get into Fire Pro until later on in life, and I love Fire Pro Wrestling, and I think that's the cool thing about some of the game developers who do WWE 2K is they take a lot of the stuff from the older games that people loved, right? Like that ability to have multiple gears, the being able to have that different gear set, the being able to fight backstage, the different weapons. Not everybody wants kendo stick, chair, trash can. They want tables. They want the ambulance match. They want the coffin match. So I'm excited to see how it turns out. Plus Cody's on the cover. That's gonna be kind of cool. I used to be a cover collector too. I had all the hard cases, but I'm digital only now. So I just I got of course the Road to WrestleMania version or whatever. But you're gonna pick it up this time or no?
Yeah, I do like the whole Road to WrestleMania, the
40 years, yeah.
Story thing that they're doing. I think that's really cool. So yeah, I'm going to have to get it again this year. Like I said, skipped out last year for whatever reason, but going to get back on it this year and definitely check it out.
Yeah, last year we got me and Art and Tank. We've played a handful of times. And I always use the creative guys. I've got an Okada. I've got a Great Muta. I download all these characters because there's so many great content creators out there, and 2K is the best to partner with those people. They make it just so that you can have all this cool stuff, right? And you can upload images that everything kind of looks unique and stuff like that. So I'm super excited about the game. Let's see. All right, WWE 2K24 out. Let's talk quickly about TNA's firing Scott D'Amore. I don't know how much you are. I know you're relatively new to the TNA thing. You're not necessarily super into it, but what's your take on it? Have you read anything about it?
Yeah, no. I mean, I don't watch TNA, but I'm up to date.
Yeah, for sure.
With what they're doing, and it just seems very odd. There's something weird about it, with especially with this whole rebranding that they just launched. That Scott D'Amore, at least on TV, was the figurehead of the relaunch. I don't know how much he did or didn't have to do with it. It seemed like he had legitimate, power in the company. So it was just the timing was odd. The guy that's taking over apparently works for Anthem, so it was kind of done to be more of a synergy between Anthem and TNA. But something's up with that. I think something will come out with it because it's very peculiar that they're finally getting at a certain level. I mean, the level is what it is. It's only going to get to a certain point, but still,
Yeah, I think something is amiss. I've known who Scott D'Amore is since the early 2000s. I've been a TNA guy. I watched a lot of TNA in the early 2000s to mid 2000s. So it is very weird, especially because he kind of spearheaded the Anthem takeover when they took over as well. He's been super involved with them. He's very close. They're a Canadian-based company. He's a Canadian-based wrestler, promoter, all of those things. I'm very interested to see. I read there was no bad word said by a single person about Scott D'Amore. No. So that's interesting too. Again, I'm not a big speculator, right? I'm not the dirt sheets. I'm not reading anything. I don't care what Meltzer said. I could care less what SRS says. I'm sure none of them know anything either until Scott comes out and says something. I hope he lands on his feet. I'm sure he will. He's been a great person for TNA in the last few years. They have done an exceptional job as a brand to stay relevant in an industry where it's, if you don't have billionaire money, you're just another indie to a certain extent, right? And they've managed to stay relevant. So I'm super sad to see that Scott D'Amore is gone, but interested to see what happens.
Yeah, and who knows? We don't know. Maybe it was his choice to leave. Not for nothing. He obviously did do had communication with WWE regarding the Jordynne Grace Rumble appearance. Jeremy Borash is one of Triple H's right-hand men. I'm assuming Jeremy Borash and Scott D'Amore have a very good relationship from all their years working together in TNA. Maybe there's something to that. Maybe, them getting Jordynne Grace for the Rumble was a start of something with Scott D'Amore working behind the scenes with WWE.
Yeah, do you think that this kills, if Scott D'Amore does leave, does that kill TNA's relationship with WWE now?
That's a good point.
Right, because why would they be like, well, you left this guy high and dry. Why would we work with y'all?
If D'Amore was the conduit,
especially because there's no benefit for WWE to do it. The benefit for them is to try out people on a basis of you're already ready-made stars, like the LA Knight when he was Eli Drake there, right? When Drew went back there and made himself a star, Cody wrestled. You had these guys who can. That makes sense, right? You're using it as somewhat of a feeder system. You're working with them and partnering, letting people know. Because I think, again, in the end, the more wrestling there is, to a certain extent, the more good wrestling there is, the better the business continues to move on. So I don't know what happens there, but it was interesting news that broke today, so I thought we would talk about it. Kind of interesting.
Something definitely up with it. We'll find out more, I'm sure. And I'm curious to see where Scott D'Amore does end up. I'm sure he'll end up somewhere, be it WWE, be it AEW, somewhere. He's not done.
1,000%. All right, this last one is one last one that we go through today. Here is AEW. Where are we going? Again, this is we're coming up on 50 minutes here, so we're just going to do another 5-minute rant here. AEW. The reason I put this on here is I just wanted to talk through. We talked a little bit about Swerve and Hangman, right? It's on in the background. We're recording during. I'll have to watch it back. I just don't know where they're going. The good thing, I think, is the best thing that they're doing, and I thought about this as we were recording early, basically when we were talking about it, is they're not going to take away from Sting's retirement match. Sting is the main event at Revolution, and they're not taking, and that's the right thing to do because he's the icon for a reason. There's nobody bigger in professional wrestling that has retired. That's more Undertaker is, in all honesty, if you were to ask people in the world, they're probably going to say Sting or Undertaker as a kid, right? That's kind of their thing. Or Hulk Hogan. There's very few faces that are actually having retirement matches, and Sting is going to have one of those chances to do that. So I think that's kind of where they're going with that. But there's so much. Swerve, I mentioned this last week, Swerve needs to be in the world title picture. He's a star right now. He's done an exceptional job. Joe continues to do a great job. They do. Again, I love the random, and I think the CMLL thing is cool. I hope that I saw a Volador promo, which is always hard for the Lucha guys to translate over sometimes, right? When they're forced to speak English, that's not their natural language. Right. But I think that they're, I just think AEW is in a weird. I just feel like this Revolution is focused on Sting, and that's a good thing. But I just feel like they're trying to reset after losing Punk and him showing up in WWE. They're trying to reset to where to go next. And I'm excited to see where it goes because I still think they have a lot of great and Collision bangs every Saturday. I watch it. I watch it after when I get home or whatever. I always turn it on. It's always amazing matches. So I know that they're going to deliver. But I just feel like from a story perspective, and like we talked about, right? I mean, story does still drive a lot of it. I want to see banger matches, but like you need something to go with, right? It's not like UFC where we're just putting two people in there to throw hands.
Right.
What about you? What are your thoughts on where we are with AEW and where we're going?
I think, like you said, they're trying to find their footing after, the last year or so has been a little tumultuous behind the scenes, right? Well, starting with, all out brawl, whatever they call it, a couple of years ago now almost. But it's been a little rocky, it seems. Like they just haven't gotten their footing. But I hope now that they are putting that behind them. I think the Sting thing certainly is a big deal. I'm glad they're giving Sting that platform. I'm glad he's getting a proper retirement. They obviously, in a time when they are not selling tickets barely at all, and that's not even, I'm not trying to make a dig. I mean, it's just the truth.
No, yeah, and again, we talked about that, right? The small market thing. Yeah, they're in small markets that like don't. NXT announced that they're going to Savannah, by the way,
right?
For their next PLE.
Yes.
I'm interested to see how big that venue is or what venue they run. But sorry, not to interrupt, but that was kind of where my head was.
Runs smaller venues when they do the PLE. So I'm assuming that NXT is going to run the same building that AEW did a couple weeks ago.
Sure.
I'm assuming. I'm not sure. I have to check it out. But So that obviously sold good. Revolution, no surprise there. Sting's a draw. So I think that's the thing is they need to get somebody in AEW that is a draw. I don't know if they have big names, but I don't know if they have anybody that is a draw, so to speak, right now. Like, yes, Edge is there, Adam Copeland, and he's a big guy, but unfortunately, he's not drawing tickets right now. Daniel Bryan's a big star, but Daniel Bryan's not drawing tickets. John Moxley, I can't tell you why. I don't know if it's their stories aren't captivating people. They have talent. There's no doubt about it.
Sure.
I mean, yes, they lost CM Punk. They lost Cody. Now Andrade. So yes, okay. And Jade. They've lost people, but they still do have a decent roster. But if you're not telling good stories with that decent roster, it doesn't matter, right? So, but I think they're trying. I think Swerve is really, starting to hit his stride, which is not something I really expected, to be honest. Not to say I didn't think Swerve was talented. I just didn't see Swerve getting to this level that he's at right now, and I'm happy he is. He's doing a great job. Joe, I think, is doing a great job as a champion.
Sure.
I'm also a big Samoa Joe fan, so
sure.
But whether he's a transitional champion or not, I think he's doing good with it. I think he's a formidable champion. Looks like a champion. As far as his presence. So yeah, listen. Yes, I'm a WWE guy, but I do watch AEW and when I can, and it's good for the business. If they're doing good, WWE's doing good. Wrestling's doing good, right? So, I hope they find their footing. I just feel that they seem a little directionless, but we'll see.
Yeah, I agree, man. And that's kind of why I was like saying. I just want to. It's a weird dynamic right now in AEW. It feels like they're building to something. At least I hope they are. They're trying to. And so we'll see kind of what happens there as they continue to build for Revolution. We'll see where it goes. Well, that's it for our rants today. So I got big news, right? We're gonna transition it over here. And Freddie, you have one, much to my chagrin. I'll give you a chance to talk a little bit. I'm going to transition over here to it. You can't see it, of course, but I got this world champ thing that I just built for our show, and now you are the man. So you got 60 seconds, Fred. Tell me something good, man, or tell me what you want. Tell me what you want the people to know out there.
I'm just going to do this for 60 seconds. No.
That's good stuff.
So yeah, no, it's we're on the road to WrestleMania. This is the best time of year to be a wrestling fan. It's not going to get better than this. Yes, other big things happen throughout the year, but this is the time. We're at a big WrestleMania. I'm big on anniversaries. 40's a big deal. It's Philadelphia. It's going to be huge. Rock involved. it's just a lot of exciting things going on. People are talking. The Cody thing is an interesting dynamic. I think we're going to come out of this better than we went coming in as far as like where Cody's at. It's all going to work out. Cody's going to be fine. Cody will be WWE Universal Champion, or now they just call it the WWE Champion. They changed it apparently, Roman's title. Roman, when Roman's on TV, say what you want, but when Roman's there, it's big business.
All right, that's your time. I've had enough of that. Enough Roman. That was your 60 seconds. Man, thank you again for joining us. That's my man, Freddie Fresh. It's at Freddie_Fresh88. Check him out. Huge wrestling fan, wrestling collector. He's got all the insight to it. He's your Jersey Connect. This is Around the Mat. My name is The PJ North, at The PJ North. You can check me out on all the socials. You can check out at Around the Mat Pod, wherever you get your podcast. It's going to be live on YouTube. Well, not live, but you know what I mean. It'll be on YouTube. You can check out the visual. I hope y'all dig it. We're going to be back again next week, hopefully with 2 more competitors that Freddie can beat up on as he returns as world champ. Shout out. Thank you again for joining us. This is Around the Mat Pod with me, PJ North, and today's champ, Freddie Fresh. Y'all have a good one. Enjoy wrestling. See y'all.